All right, so our next brain dump looks a lot different than the other two brain dumps that we've done, because this time I'm going to have you guys fill in the blanks of our brain dump instead of completely rewriting the whole thing. So for today's brain dump, we're going to start with 4 of the vocabulary words that we have learned so far, focusing on the types of angles. First off, we have an acute angle. I'm going to underline my vocab, acute angle. And an acute angle measures greater than 0 degrees, putting my little degree symbol up at the top right corner of my number. So greater than 0 degrees, but less than 90 degrees. And I'm going to draw a picture of an acute angle. So I'll draw my vertex first. Draw one ray out to the side and draw a second ray so that my angle kind of looks like a less than symbol. Next, I'm going to draw and fill out the definition for a right angle. So a right angle measures exactly 90 degrees. And I'm going to actually take an index card. You don't have to use an index card. You could use a piece of paper, you could use a book, or notebook rather. Let's not use our library book because we don't want to mark in it. But I'm going to use this and I'm going to draw a 90-degree angle. So I'm going to start again with my vertex. I'm going to put the corner of my index card on that vertex, and then I'm just going to draw one straight line going up, one going off to the side, and then pull it away, and I have a 90-degree angle. I'm also going to put that little square in the corner because that's a symbol that we can use to demonstrate I know this angle is exactly 90 degrees and it's definitely a right angle. Third, we're going to do obtuse angles. Obtuse angles are larger than 90 degrees, greater than 90 degrees, but they're still less than 180 degrees. They're less than a straight line. So same thing, drawing a vertex, but this time I'm going to draw one ray facing this direction and one ray going up like that. So I can tell if I look at this ray, it's definitely larger than this right angle, larger than a square corner. Kind of looks like a book when you got it almost open. Our last angle type is a straight angle. Now a straight angle measures exactly 180 degrees. So I'm going to bring back out my index card, and I'm actually going to do my vertex and then draw a straight line. And I have an angle that is exactly 180 degrees. This is also, if we look at a right angle, if I put two right angles together, I would get a straight angle because 90 plus 90 is 180 degrees. Next, we're going to look at a little bit more vocabulary. So when we're measuring an angle, we are using a protractor. And when we're using the protractor to measure an angle, we're measuring the angle in degrees. I'm going to put the little symbol up to the side of the word just so that I remember the word and the symbol go together. The last part of our brain dump is actually going to be filling in the steps for measuring an angle with a protractor. So I'm actually going to pull out a protractor and show you what each of these steps is talking about. I want to get a bigger one. So I have a few different options of protractors here. I have one that's really pretty small, and then I have a larger one. I'm going to use the larger one because I think it's a little bit easier to see. So the very first step for measuring an angle is to line up the center of the protractor with the angle's vertex. So we're going to fill in that blank with the word center. And what it means when it says center, I'm actually going to cover my page a little bit so that you can see. I'm going to bring this down. If you look on this type of protractor, there's actually a little hole right there in the center. So if you've got your vertex, it wants you to make sure that your vertex is inside that little hole that's in the center of your protractor. If you don't have that little empty space, it gives you a line here that tells you that is your center, and that's what you will line it up with. Next, adjust my camera again. Make sure it's still good. All right. Next, we line up the 0 degree line with one of your angle's rays. So I'm actually going to draw an angle really quickly. And we're going to see if we can figure out the measure of this angle. Ooh. There we go. So I'm going to take this protractor and I'm going to first put the center on my vertex, which I've done. Now I'm going to make sure that this line right here at the bottom, which is the 0 degree line, lines up perfectly with my bottom ray. So if you do it correctly, your bottom ray is actually going to look like it disappears. This is what it looks like with the small protractor. With the larger protractor, I line up my vertex. This line right here that goes through the center of that vertex circle is my 0 degree line. Again, I move it just until that line disappears. If I look closely, I can't see that line anymore. That tells me that I've lined it up correctly. Our third step is to read where the second ray crosses the curve of the protractor. And I'm going to go ahead and fill in 4 as well, because those two steps kind of go hand in hand. Then step number 4, to choose the correct measure, decide if your angle is acute, obtuse, right, or straight. Now, a lot of you are probably wondering, why would you put straight on there? Some angle measurements might look like they're a straight line or might look like they're exactly 90 degrees, but they're not. It could be 179 degrees. Then it's still an obtuse angle. Or it could be 89 degrees and it's still not a right angle. It's only an acute angle. So I'm going to do my last steps, lining up the center on my vertex, lining up my 0 degree line, and I'm going to come up here. So it looks like I've got 2 choices. I have 98 degrees, or I have 82 degrees. So I'm going to pull the protractor away and I'm going to look at this. And I'm going to decide, okay, do I think this angle is bigger or smaller than a square. If I really wasn't sure, I could put my index card or my piece of paper back up, and if I look at this, the second ray has disappeared. That tells me that this angle is smaller than 90 degrees. So I need to pick the measurement that is less than 90 degrees, which here would be 82 degrees. So make sure that you have your notes completely filled out, and then cut them out, trim them up, and put them in your math notebook.